They say Rome was not built in a day, but its pleasures were. By the time the empire stretched from the sands of Egypt to the fog of Britannia, the eternal city had become a heartbeat of hunger. Its temples praised the gods, its theaters praised glory, but its streets whispered another gospel entirely. Because beneath every marble column and triumphal arch, Rome hid its true religion, one not of Jupiter or Venus, but of the body itself. Desire was not a sin in Rome, it was a language, a currency, a secret empire that thrived beneath the empire of stone. The brothels, the lupernaria, were their temples. Their name came from the wolf luper, and the women who worked within were called the same: wolves, seducers, hunters of men. But these wolves did not roam freely. They were bought, branded, and bound. Slaves, foreigners, widows, every cast off the empire forgot found purpose in its endless night. Step through the doorway of a Roman lupanar, and the air itself would change. Oil lamps flickered red against plaster walls scrawled with graffiti. Words of lust, names of lovers, prices of sin. Some were crude, some poetic. One still survives, carved into stone in Pompeii's ruins. I made love here with many, none as sweet as Livia. Each room was small, a bed of stone with a thin mattress, a painted god on the wall. Priapus, the god of fertility, always watching, his eternal arousal carved to remind patrons what this place was built for. At the entrance, a curtain hung, purple if the woman within was prized, black if she was cheap, red if she was new. Men waited outside, clutching bronze tokens called spintriae, engraved with images too indecent for coinage, used to pay for what the law could not name. Theleno, the brothel keeper, sat by the door, counting souls like a priest of appetite. He did not bless, he priced. Inside, time was measured not in hours, but in size. The women knew their craft well. They learned to smile with tired eyes, to laugh without joy, to become the fantasy their buyers craved. A soldier would want a goddess, a senator, a slave, a priest, forgiveness in flesh. And so the wolves became mirrors, reflecting every sin men refused to see in themselves. But not all who came to the lupernaria sought pleasure. Some came for power, because in Rome, even lust could be political. Secrets traded in whispers, alliances sealed with touch. The higher the man, the deeper the shame he buried there. And among the hundreds of nameless women who served the empire's hunger, one name lingered through centuries like a curse: Cassia of the Seven Knights. She was said to be a priestess of Venus herself, a woman so beautiful that men forgot their oaths, their faith, even their sanity. They said she could make emperors weep and beggars believe they were gods. But beauty is never free, and in Cassia's story, desire was not a gift, it was a weapon. Her legend begins in the reign of Tiberius, when the city was drunk on power and corruption. A senator named Gaius Varro, known for cruelty and excess, visited the lupanar one night, seeking to out-sin his peers. He demanded the rarest woman in Rome, and so they brought him Cassia. She entered not as a slave, but as a queen. Her eyes, dark, unflinching, met his without fear. She did not bow, she did not smile. She asked him one question: "Do you know which god watches you tonight?" Varro laughed and said, "All of them." Cassia leaned close, her breath soft as confession. "No," she whispered, "only the one you've already betrayed." That night, Varro fled the lupanar pale as a ghost. By dawn he was dead, found in his villa clutching a statue of Venus, his mouth open as if mid-prayer. They said his heart burst from shame. But in Rome, shame and punishment often looked the same. The brothel where it happened was sealed by the guard. But when they reopened it a month later, every lamp still burned. The walls were covered in words no scholar could translate, curses written in blood, and Cassia was gone. Some claimed she joined a cult of Venus Erycina, an ancient sect where love was worshipped through ritualized sin. Others whispered she had been taken by the goddess herself, her beauty too divine for mortal eyes. But in truth, her story became something more than a tale of a woman. It became prophecy, a warning carved in pleasure's own skin. Because after Cassia vanished, Rome began to change. The laughter in the lupernaria grew quieter. The graffiti turned darker, less of lust, more of regret. "I came here to forget," one reads. But she remembered. The empire that had once glorified indulgence began to choke on its own appetite. Philosophers spoke of moral decay, priests of purity, emperors of reform. But in the shadows, the wolves still hunted. And some said that on certain nights, when the lamps burned low and the moon hung red above the Tiber, a woman's voice could still be heard through the alleyways. Soft, melodic, unearthly. A voice that promised pleasure, but only if you were willing to pay in truth. They called her Venus Reborn, but the old women in the markets whispered her real name, Cassia. And the men who heard that name would cross themselves, not in faith but in fear, because in a city that worshipped desire, Cassia was not a woman, she was a mirror. And those who looked into her saw not love, but everything they had tried to forget. They said when Cassia vanished, Rome stopped breathing. The candles in the temples of Venus burned low. The air grew heavy with the smell of rain, and every man who had once touched her dreamed that she was still whispering in his ear. The city's pulse slowed, not from plague, not from famine, but from the ache of longing. In the Subura, they found men kneeling before her old doorway, pressing coins against the stone, as though trying to buy her ghost. Others carved her name on their wrists, Cassia, a name once soft as honey, now forbidden. The Senate ordered her story erased. The priestesses of Vesta burned her records, but when fire touched her image, the wax refused to melt. When they threw her portrait into the Tiber, it floated upstream, and when the emperor himself forbade her name, he heard it whispered in his dreams. He called it hysteria, but the slaves said otherwise. They said the goddess of love had returned in mortal flesh, and Rome had tried to cage her. Cassia's last lover, a soldier named Lucian, wandered the night markets searching for her. He found instead a priest who told him of the old rites, of the women who once called upon Ishtar beneath the new moon. They said Cassia had not died. She had gone back to the river where the first desire was born. Lucian followed that story like a thread. For 7 days he walked beyond the city walls, through the ruins of the old temples. On the 8th, he came upon a grove of laurel trees bent toward a silver pool. The water shimmered with its own light, and there, in the reflection, he saw her, not standing, not alive, but remembered. Her eyes were open beneath the surface, watching him, the same eyes that once undressed kings. He reached into the water, and the reflection smiled. When he touched it, the world around him shifted. The grove vanished, the pool turned to marble, and suddenly he was inside a brothel again, but not the one he knew. This one had no walls, no lamps, no scent of oil or wine. It was endless. Women with faces like statues moved through the air. Each wore Cassia's smile. Each whispered in the same voice, "You desired me once. Now you belong to me forever." They say Lucian never returned to Rome, but sometimes when the night wind moves through the city's broken aqueducts, you can hear him calling a name, the name of a woman who became every desire ever felt by man. In the years that followed, a sickness spread through Rome, not of the body but of the soul. Men forgot their wives, priests dreamed of fire. Even the Vestal virgins began to speak Cassia's name in their sleep. A new cult rose from the shadows, the Sons of Cassia. They painted her image on walls, a woman crowned in serpents holding a mirror that reflected no face at all. When the emperor saw it, he declared war not on nations but on memory itself. He ordered every mirror in the city shattered, every bathhouse drained, every woman questioned. Still, Cassia appeared, in the ripples of fountains, in the eyes of the dying, in the moonlight slipping through the marble cracks. They say one night, during a feast at the Palatine, the emperor saw her standing behind him in the reflection of his cup. She did not speak. She only smiled, that same terrible, holy smile that had once made gods jealous. He dropped the cup, but the reflection stayed. By dawn, the emperor was dead, his face frozen in wonder or horror. The priests called it divine punishment. The poets called it prophecy. But the common people whispered a different truth, that Cassia had never been mortal, that she was Rome itself, the hunger that built it, the lust that doomed it, the beauty that could never last. Centuries passed, Rome fell, the temples turned to dust. The brothels became churches, and the name Cassia was spoken only in the secret corners of dreams. Yet some say she still walks, not of flesh, but of reflection. In every city that rises too high, where marble meets shadow, she is there, watching. A woman who was once a lover, then a ghost, and finally a myth. The last priest of her cult wrote before dying, "The gods made man to worship them, but Cassia taught man to worship himself, and that they could never forgive." He was buried beneath the old red light district, under a house that still hums with the echo of her laughter. Sometimes, when the moonlight hits the Tiber just right, the water glows pale gold. They say that's where she drowned, or where she rose. No one knows which. But every mirror in Rome, no matter how new, still fogs when her name is spoken. Cassia, the first desire, the last goddess, the woman Rome tried to forget, and never could.